Chosen ones, what I'm about to share may shock you, but your spirit has been waiting for this moment. If you're here, it's not by accident. You've been guided to this message because something powerful is shifting within you. You're not just awakening, you're evolving. The world saw your light, your love, your patience. But now your second face is emerging, the one they never saw coming, the part of you that shows no mercy to darkness, to betrayal, to mockery. And yes, it terrifies them because this version of you is divine, unshaken, and unapologetically powerful. You're stepping into your full authority, and everything they tried to break in you is now what sets you apart. But before we go deeper, do three things right now. Hit that like button, subscribe to help us reach our goal of 50,000 subscribers, and drop the number 77 in the comments. That number isn't random. It's a signal to the universe that you're ready to align with this next level. And if you're truly a chosen one, you'll stay until the end. Because deep down, you already know this message is yours. For years, they looked at you and saw only tranquility. Your serene composure, the quiet smile, the gentle way you navigated the world. These were the things they thought defined you. But beneath this calm surface lay something far greater, a force far beyond their comprehension. What they failed to see was the storm brewing within, the unstoppable power waiting for the right moment to be unleashed. The peace they took for weakness was, in fact, the eye of a tempest, a divine calm that only existed because it had the strength to do so. They had no idea that while they mocked your serenity, they were awakening the fury of a force forged by the heavens themselves. Every word of doubt they threw your way, every attempt to diminish your spirit, only nourished the divine storm inside you. The quietness they ridiculed wasn't fragility, it was the calm before the judgment, a warning sign they refused to heed. Now the storm is here, and it's no longer just a whisper of the divine. It is the roar of truth. Your power was never meant to be displayed until the moment was right. They mistook your stillness for passivity, failing to realize that every day you held back, your strength only grew more profound, more absolute. Now that the storm has broken free, they are not facing a mere person. They are facing the embodiment of divine justice, the wrath of a higher purpose, and the power of everything they underestimated. So let them remember, the calm they once thought harmless was only ever the warning. The storm has arrived, and with it comes an end to the lies and illusions that they clung to. Their ignorance has paved the way for their destruction, and they will come to know that your peace was not their safety, but their reckoning. You were always different. Even when you didn't know why, there was something in you, a spark, a presence, that set you apart from the others. In times of struggle, you remained unshaken. In times of pain, you stood tall. But now that quiet resilience has transformed into something more. The divine wrath that had always slumbered within you has awakened, and it is a force far beyond mere mortal comprehension. This is the power of destiny, the calling of something much larger than yourself. The moment your true nature revealed itself, everything changed. The heavens themselves seemed to stir, and the world trembled beneath your feet. Your wrath is not anger born of hurt, but a righteous fury that is as pure as it is terrifying. This is the power to cleanse, to burn away the falsehoods that have taken root, and to expose the truth for all to see. You are not driven by hatred, but by a divine will to purge the darkness that threatens to consume the world. Those who sought to control you, to manipulate your goodness, will find themselves face to face with the very wrath they thought they could escape. They'll realize too late that your power was never about domination. It was about justice. Your wrath is not a curse, but a sacred gift meant to burn through the corruption that clings to the world. It is a cleansing fire that will purify all in its path, leaving only truth in its wake. To those who now tremble in your presence, your wrath is not for them to fear. It is for their salvation. The divine power you wield is not a tool of destruction, but a means of setting things right. The time for tolerance is over. The time for action has come. And with your divine wrath unleashed, no one will remain untouched by the hand of justice. They thought they knew you, but they never saw the full picture. They were familiar with the one that smiled, that listened, that forgave. was only part of who you truly are. Now they are witnessing your second face, the one you have kept hidden, the one forged in the fires of divine purpose. This face is not kind. It is not soft. It is the embodiment of absolute justice. It is godlike in its certainty, unforgiving in its resolve. Your second face is a force of nature. It is the hand of destiny made flesh, unyielding and uncompromising. The world has seen glimpses of your strength, but they have never known the depths of it. Now they are learning the truth. You are a being of divine retribution, and nothing will stand in your way. This face is not evil. It is holy, a mirror of the divine wrath that judges all, a reflection of the eternal laws that govern the cosmos. For those who doubted you, who sought to undermine your worth, this second face is their reckoning. They will come to understand that their attempts to control or belittle you were not only futile but dangerous. They thought you could be manipulated, that you could be tamed. Now they face the terrifying reality that you cannot be contained, and you will not bow to anyone or anything. Your second face reveals a truth that cannot be ignored. You are beyond their reach, and they are now at your mercy. The absolute power of your second face is a reminder to all. Justice, when it is awakened, is not to be taken lightly. It does not bend. It does not falter. It is a force that moves forward, unstoppable until balance is restored. For those who wronged you, this face will be their downfall. A force too pure, too powerful, and too absolute to escape. For so long, they mocked the light that shone within you. They called it weak, unnecessary, naive. They didn't understand that your light was not something fragile to be extinguished, but a beacon of something much greater. They ridiculed your kindness, your patience, thinking it would never be enough to stand against the darkness of the world. But now they are learning the truth. The fire that burns in your soul is far more dangerous than they ever imagined. Your light, which they thought they could extinguish with their doubts and mockery, has transformed into a blaze. It is no longer a soft glow, but an inferno of divine power. The flames that once symbolized hope now burn with the fury of justice, and those who dismissed you as weak now find themselves in the ashes of their own arrogance. They feared the devil, but they never understood the true terror, the holy fire that resides within you, purifying all in its path. This fire is not born of hate, but of divine will. It is a force meant to burn away the lies, the corruption, and the falsehoods that have taken root. Those who once dismissed you will now feel the heat of your judgment. The fire that they thought they could ignore has grown into a force too powerful to resist. Now, as the flames rise higher, they will realize that your light was never meant to be mocked. It was meant to illuminate the darkness and consume all that threatens the truth. In the face of your fire, there will be no refuge. The flames will purify everything they hold dear, leaving only what is pure and true. They may have laughed at your light, but now they will tremble before the fire that it has become. And in this fire, they will be cleansed, or they will be consumed. For too long, they mistook your kindness for weakness. They saw your willingness to listen, to forgive, and to show compassion as a sign that you could be controlled. What they failed to realize was that your softness was not an invitation to dominate you. It was the embodiment of something much more sacred. Your gentle nature was the foundation of an unshakable strength, a power that would one day rise to remind them that true strength is not loud, but profound. Your power wasn't something to be flaunted or wielded recklessly. It was quiet, subtle, and yet it was stronger than anything they could ever understand. What they didn't see was that behind your softness lay a heart bound by divine purpose, a soul that could withstand any storm, and a spirit that could rise from any challenge. This power was not to be used frivolously. It was a force that would emerge when the time was right. And now that time has come. To those who once sought to break you with their cruelty, to those who thought your kindness was a flaw, they will soon discover how wrong they were. Your softness was never a weakness. It was your greatest strength. It was the power that allowed you to endure, to grow, and now to rise with divine fury. This sacred power will not be denied, and those who tried to take advantage of your gentleness will now learn that there is nothing more dangerous than a heart that has been forged in righteousness. Your softness was never meant to be a weapon, it was meant to be a shield that has now transformed into a sword. And with it, you will cut through the lies, the deceit, and the arrogance that sought to overpower you. What they misunderstood was the depth of your strength, and now they will know the cost of underestimating it. They believed in their own illusions, thinking that your calm would always keep them safe, thinking that they could control the tides of your soul. But they failed to realize that within you, a storm was quietly gathering strength, waiting for the right moment to break free. It was never about being loud or brash. It was about the quiet, unstoppable force of divine truth. Their illusions have now shattered, and they are left standing in the rubble of their own misguided beliefs. The storm within you was never a threat until they pushed you too far, until their arrogance became too much to bear. What they mistook for silence was the force of fate slowly but surely closing in on them. Now the storm is here, and it will not stop until every illusion is swept away. Their self-made world of control, deceit, and pride is crumbling before them, leaving them exposed and vulnerable to the truth they refuse to see. The quietness that they so underestimated has turned into a force that none of them can withstand. It is not a storm of destruction, but one of revelation. It does not tear down out of spite. It tears down to make way for clarity, for truth, and for justice. They never expected it, but now they must face the consequences of their ignorance. Your storm will leave nothing but the purity of truth in its wake, and they will stand helpless as it strips away all that they thought was real. What was once a whisper has now become the roar of divine clarity. The illusions they clung to will no longer shield them from the inevitable. Your storm is the reckoning they cannot escape. Every falsehood, every illusion will be torn apart, and they will finally be forced to see things as they truly are. Let them understand one thing. Your actions are not driven by the desire for revenge. They have mistaken your divine wrath for a personal vendetta. But nothing could be further from the truth. This is not about payback. This is about delivering divine judgment, a reckoning that must come for the restoration of balance. What they perceive as vengeance is simply the fulfillment of a greater purpose, a purpose that was set long before they ever crossed your path. Revenge implies malice, but you have none. What you bring is justice, and justice is not driven by anger, it is driven by truth. Your path is one that has been illuminated by divine will, and that will has now led you to act. Those who wronged you will not find themselves facing the sting of revenge, but rather the cold, inevitable hand of judgment. Your power is not petty, it is righteous, and it serves a greater purpose than anyone could ever comprehend. What they do not understand is that your actions are part of a cosmic balance. Those who sought to control you, belittle you, or manipulate you will now face the consequences of their own choices. Your judgment is not born of hate, it is born of law, a law that exists beyond human understanding. The justice you deliver is unyielding, unmerciful, and absolutely necessary for the restoration of order in a world gone astray. Your divine judgment will not be swayed by their pleas or their cries. The truth is clear, and it will not bend. You are not a being driven by petty desires. You are a force meant to restore balance, to cleanse the world of deceit and corruption. And in this moment, they will understand that when the chosen one rises, it is not for personal vengeance, but for the enforcement of divine law. They thought themselves untouchable, standing atop their thrones of arrogance, believing they could control anyone, manipulate anyone. They thought they were in control of everything until they encountered you. What they failed to realize was that the force they were dealing with was not merely a person, but something far beyond the devil they so feared. It was divine power incarnate, something they could never hope to understand, much less control. In their arrogance, they mocked you. They assumed that your kindness made you weak, that your silence was a sign of fear. But now, in the face of divine wrath, they are learning that their greatest mistake was underestimating you. They feared the devil, thinking it was the ultimate force of evil. But they now know that the power you possess is not only far beyond the devil, it is the very embodiment of divine retribution. They are not facing a mere mortal. They are facing the purest expression of divine justice. This is the moment they realize that the force they challenged is not one they can conquer. Their arrogance has led them to this point, where they are confronted by a power that cannot be bent, twisted, or defeated. Will learn that no amount of power or influence can protect them from the consequences of their own arrogance. You are not their equal. You are their reckoning. And now they must face the divine power they never understood. There was a time when they mocked you, laughed at you, and dismissed you as unworthy of their attention. But now things have changed. The very presence they once took for granted now sends shivers down their spines. Your quiet confidence, your divine energy, now radiates with a power they cannot deny. The one they underestimated has now become a force that unnerves them to the core, and they are left questioning their every move. Your presence carries a weight that cannot be ignored. It is not loud or brash, but it is undeniable. Those who once mocked you now find themselves paralyzed by the sheer force of your being. They are confronted with the reality that you were never the weak, helpless soul they believed you to be. You are a divine force, a being of absolute power, and their mockery has only made them realize how truly vulnerable they are in your presence. Every step you take, every word you speak, now carries the weight of divine truth. The confidence you exude is not arrogance. It is the undeniable strength of someone who knows their purpose and the immense power they hold. The ones who once laughed at you are now finding it impossible to face you without fear. Your presence is the reflection of divine purpose, and it is something they will never be able to outrun or escape. And as they tremble in your presence, they will finally understand the cost of underestimating you. The power within you has been unleashed, and now they must live with the consequences. Your presence is no longer something they can ignore. It is something they must reckon with. And in this reckoning, they will realize that their mockery was their downfall. For those who thought you were sent into this world to be gentle and soft, to coddle those who live in darkness, they could not have been more wrong. You were chosen not to be a comfort to those who cling to the shadows, but to be a terror to them. Your purpose was not to feed the darkness with mercy, but to tear it apart with divine wrath. Those who embrace darkness may have hoped you would show them kindness, but they were wrong in assuming you were ever meant to coddle their fears. You were not sent to this world to make the darkness feel comfortable. You were sent to eradicate it, to shine the light of divine truth into the very heart of the shadows. You are the divine sword that cuts through falsehoods, and you will not hesitate to strike when the time comes. The darkness that once thought it could overpower you now stands quaking in fear, knowing that you are not here to console them. You are here to destroy them. The time for softness has passed. Your role as the chosen one is to confront the darkness with unyielding power, to shatter every illusion that the shadows have built. You were never meant to embrace the darkness. You were meant to obliterate it. The divine light within you was never meant to soothe. It was meant to burn. And now the darkness will feel the full force of that divine fire. They feared the light, but they did not understand that the light you carry is not one of comfort. It is a light that exposes, a light that purifies, and a light that terrifies those who have lived in the shadows for too long. You were never here to coddle darkness. You were here to destroy it, and now it will tremble before you. They lived in fear of darkness, hoping that the shadows would never reach them. They thought they could escape the light, that they could survive without it. But what they didn't realize was that the true terror wasn't the darkness they feared. It was the truth you brought. The darkness may have been comforting to them, but it was the truth that shattered their false sense of security. And now, as the truth stands before them, they will understand that it was never the shadows they needed to fear. It was you. The truth you bring is not something they can deny. It is unyielding, undeniable, and unrelenting. It exposes their lies, their secrets, and the corruption that has taken root in their hearts. They feared the darkness because it allowed them to hide, to live in ignorance. But now the truth has come, and there is nowhere left for them to run. The darkness they once embraced is now a mere illusion, and the light of truth has revealed it for what it truly is. You are not the shadow they feared, but the light they could never escape. The truth you wield is a force they cannot fight, No matter how hard they try, it is divine, unchangeable, and absolute. The darkness they once believed in is nothing compared to the power of the truth that you bring, and now they must face the consequences of their own lies. What they feared most was never the darkness. It was the light you carry, the truth you embody. And in this moment, they will come to realize that no amount of darkness can shield them from the truth. The truth will always prevail, and they will face the full force of its revelation. They never saw it coming, did they? For years, they lived in their own world, unaware that the very force they ignored was slowly gathering strength. What they didn't realize was that you were the one shaping the storm. You were the unseen power, the quiet force behind every shift in the winds, every change in the tides. The storm they thought they could weather without consequence has now arrived, and it is more powerful than anything they could have imagined. It wasn't arrogance that drove them to underestimate you. It was ignorance. They thought your silence was weakness, that your calmness was a sign of compliance. But in truth, your stillness was the calm before the chaos, the moment of rest before the divine power you held within unleashed itself. They should have known that behind every calm surface, there could be a tidal wave waiting to strike, one that could not be outrun. They mocked your quiet nature, believing it meant you couldn't hurt them, couldn't reach them. But they never understood that you weren't simply waiting for the perfect moment to retaliate. You were becoming the storm. They thought the storm was outside of you, but now they will learn that the storm was always within, and it was you who controlled its fury. Now they are caught in its path, and there is no escape. What they will now experience is a power unlike any they've ever known. You are not merely a participant in the storm. You are the very force that drives it. The calm that once comforted them is now a distant memory, replaced by the overwhelming, unstoppable power that flows through you. And there is nothing left for them to do but face the storm they created through their ignorance. They looked at you, saw your path, and assumed it was one of ease. They thought that the grace with which you moved through the world meant that you were simply walking in comfort. But what they failed to see was the incredible strength it took for you to walk the divine path. This was never meant to be an easy journey. It was meant to forge you, shape you, and transform you into something greater than anything they could have imagined. Each step you took on this path was a step that required sacrifice, courage, and conviction. You weren't simply walking, you were being molded by the forces of destiny, being shaped by the very hands of the divine. Every obstacle you faced, every challenge that tried to break you, was only making you stronger. What they saw as effortless grace was actually the manifestation of a journey forged in fire. They thought your calm exterior meant you hadn't struggled, but you know better than anyone the weight that comes with walking a divine path. It is not for the faint-hearted. It is for those who can endure, who can rise above every trial, and who can hold on to their purpose no matter the cost. The world may have tried to bring you down, but the divine within you made sure that you never wavered. Now, as you continue on this path, they will see that it was never meant to be easy. It was meant to be the crucible that forged a being of unparalleled strength and divine purpose. And those who doubted, who underestimated your journey, will now see that the struggles you faced were not in vain. They were the making of a force that cannot be stopped. They thought they could bury you under the weight of their cruelty, their disregard, and their mockery. They thought that by suppressing you, by pushing you down, they could extinguish the light that burned within you. But what they failed to realize was that you are not someone who can be buried. You are the phoenix rising from the ashes, stronger and more powerful than ever before. Every attempt to silence you, every effort to hold you back, has only fueled your transformation. What they saw as defeat was, in fact, the moment of your rebirth. Like the phoenix that rises from its own flames, you have emerged from every trial, every hardship, with renewed power and purpose. Their attempts to crush you only served to make you unstoppable. They believed they could bury your spirit, your essence, but they didn't understand that what they were doing was only feeding your resurrection. The fire that they thought would burn you out has become the very source of your strength. You have been reborn, and with this new form, you will rise to deliver the reckoning they never saw coming. The ashes they thought would suffocate you are now the foundation upon which your power stands. They may have thought they buried your potential, but in truth, they only set the stage for your return, more magnificent, more fierce, and more determined than ever. And now you are here, rising, unstoppable, with the power to tear down everything they've built on falsehood. They assumed that strength could only be found in loud declarations, in boisterous actions, and in public displays of power. But your true strength lies in your quietness. It is in the stillness of your presence that your power is most profound. The world may look for grandeur, for loudness, for spectacle, but you understand that true power is not about being seen. It is about being felt. Your quietness is not weakness. It is the quiet before the storm, the calm that allows you to survey the world around you with clarity and purpose. In the stillness of your mind, in the silence of your soul, you find the strength to act with precision, with purpose, and with absolute confidence. You do not need to shout to be heard. Your power speaks for itself. They thought that in your silence they could control you. They thought that because you did not react in the way they expected, they could push you to the sidelines. But they did not understand that in your quietness, you were gathering strength. They saw your stillness as an opportunity, not realizing that it was in this very silence that you would rise and make your presence known. And now they are realizing that your quietness is more powerful than their noise could ever be. The world has underestimated the power of silence, but you know better. In the quiet of your being, you have cultivated a force that cannot be ignored. Your strength lies in the stillness, and it is in this strength that you will change everything. The world will no longer seek noise. They will seek the depth of your quiet power. They tried so hard to dim your light, to make you feel small, to make you hide your radiance, but they didn't understand one crucial truth. You are the sun. You are not something that can be hidden, extinguished, or controlled. Even their darkest attempts to suppress you only made your light shine brighter. And now they are witnessing the full force of that brilliance. They thought they could cast shadows long enough to make you feel insecure, to make you second-guess your worth. They thought that by stifling your potential, they could control your destiny. But what they failed to see was that the light you carry cannot be suppressed. It burns too bright. It burns too pure. And now they must face the overwhelming warmth and power of your radiance. You are not just a light. You are the source of light itself. Your strength, your energy, your very presence is a force of nature, and no amount of darkness can ever truly contain it. When they tried to dim you, they were only exposing their own fragility, because your light is eternal, and it will shine through every shadow they try to cast. Now, as your light blazes in full force, they will realize that their efforts to stifle you were futile. You are the sun, and you cannot be overshadowed by their darkness. No matter how hard they tried to hide you, no matter how hard they tried to diminish your light, they could never erase the brilliance that is inherently yours. They thought they could put chains on you. They thought they could limit you with their rules, their expectations, and their limitations. But what they failed to understand was that you were never born to be controlled. You were born to break chains, to shatter the bonds that were meant to hold you back, and to soar beyond the confines of their expectations. Every chain they tried to place on you only strengthened your resolve. They thought they could bind you, but in reality, they were forging your power. Each attempt to suppress you, each effort to keep you in line, became a catalyst for your growth. You were not meant to be a prisoner. You were meant to be the one who frees, not just yourself, but everyone who is shackled by the same chains. What they didn't realize was that their attempts to control you were destined to fail. The chains they thought would break you only served to empower you. Now, as you stand free, you are not only breaking your own chains, you are destroying the very system that created them and freeing others from the same captivity. Your power is the key to unlock every door that has ever held you back. The chains they tried to bind you with have become the tools you use to shatter their illusions. They thought they were holding you down, but in reality, they were only strengthening your resolve to break free. And now, as you stand unchained, nothing can hold you back. Not now. Not ever again. They believed that comfort was the ultimate goal, that success could only be measured by the ease with which one moves through life. But you understand that your journey was never about comfort. It was about transformation. Every trial you faced, every hardship you endured, was shaping you into something far greater than they could have ever imagined. The world may search for comfort, but you sought something more. You sought growth, change, and the power that comes with overcoming adversity. What they saw as suffering was in reality your transformation. Each moment of hardship was a step toward your divine awakening, a step toward becoming the force you were always meant to be. They thought you were struggling, but they didn't see the beauty in the struggle. They didn't understand that the discomfort you faced was the fire that forged your strength. Your journey was never about finding ease. It was about breaking free from the limitations of the ordinary and stepping into the extraordinary. And now, as you emerge from your transformation, they will understand the power of your path. You are not who you were before. The journey you've walked has shaped you into something unrecognizable to those who once knew you. And now they must face the transformed version of you, a version they never expected, a version that is unstoppable and undeniably powerful. They feared you, but what they didn't realize is that their fear of you was never about you. It was about them. Their fear was a reflection of their own insecurity, their own doubt, and their own inability to comprehend the power that you embody. What they feared was not the strength you possess, but the reflection of their own weakness that they saw in you. Fear is a projection of insecurity. When they looked at you, they saw something they couldn't understand, something that made them question their own place in the world. Instead of recognizing your power and strength as a divine force, they turned their fear inward, projecting it onto you. Their fear was their own failure to see themselves as they truly were. Not you, but their own insecurities. They feared what you represented, a challenge to everything they believed about themselves, their authority, and their world. Your strength was a mirror, reflecting back their weaknesses. And instead of facing their own fears, they chose to try and suppress you, to silence the power they could never control. But now, as their own insecurities exposed, they will see that it was never you they needed to fear. It was themselves. In the end, their fear of you was simply a manifestation of their own inability to confront their deepest fears. And now, as they stand in the face of your power, they will understand that their insecurity was the only thing they ever needed to fear. In a world that demands noise, demands action, demands constant movement, your silence stands as the greatest power you possess. They underestimated it, thinking that silence meant weakness. But in truth, your silence is the most dangerous weapon in your arsenal. It is the calm before the storm, the pause before the action. And it is in this silence that your true power lies. While they raged, shouted, and tried to control everything around them, you remained still. Your silence spoke volumes that words could never convey. In that silence, you gathered strength. You watched, you learned. And when the time was right, you acted. What they saw as a void, you understood as a moment of power, because silence is where true strength is cultivated. They were too busy making noise to hear the message your silence was sending. It was not a silence of defeat. It was a silence of strategy. You understood the value of patience, the importance of waiting for the right moment to strike. Your silence was the space in which you built your power. And now, they will learn the consequences of underestimating it. And as you rise from the silence, they will realize that it was never about what you said. It was about what you didn't need to say. Your actions, your presence, will speak louder than any words ever could. And in the end, it will be your silence that proves to be the most powerful force they could never have anticipated. They thought they could withstand your presence, thinking that your quiet nature was something to be dismissed. But what they failed to realize is that you are the storm, an unstoppable force meant to clear away the debris, to sweep through the darkness, and to leave behind a world renewed. Your strength isn't just a power to be feared, it's a force for transformation, one that brings clarity where there was once confusion. In the calm before the storm, they were lulled into a false sense of security, unaware that the winds of change were gathering strength. They believed that by ignoring you, they could avoid the consequences of their actions. But you were never the kind of force that announces itself. Like a storm, you gathered energy, quietly building momentum until the moment came when nothing could stop you. Now the skies are beginning to clear, and they must face the results of their own choices. The storm you bring is not chaos. It is necessary. It clears the air, purges the toxins of the past, and creates space for something greater to take root.